know this is solar power.
On behalf of Rabbi Michael Lerner, the leader of TIKKUN magazine and the Network of Spiritual Progressives, and his staff, supporters, and all the members of the Network of Spiritual Progressives and the chapters across this country, we proudly salute you, Representative Keith Eliison, for your courageous and visionary leadership in supporting the Global Marshall Plan in the Congress of the United States of America. So with that, we give you the Visionary Award. And it reads, the Network of Spiritual Progressives Visionary Award presented to Congressman Keith Eliison for courageous leadership on the Global Marshall Plan, March 14, 2011.
So thank you very much. Peace be unto you, everyone.
And to you.
To my dear friend Imam Johari, you and I go back a while now, don't we, brother? And you've been giving me pastoral advice for quite a long time. And I call on you from time to time, and I'm always glad to hear your insight because, as you know, whenever you're going through certain aspects of life, you got to check back in so you can stay on that spiritual path. It's very critical. It's good to see my friend Joe from the Hill. What's up, Joe?
All right.
Well, I do want to thank everybody. I want to thank Rabbi Lerner, who is also a dear friend. We are in an awesome debate right now throughout our country, not just in Congress, but right here at BusBoys&Poets, in Peoria, Illinois, Texas, Minnesota, California. We are in an awesome debate right now about what is the proper role of government. That's the debate we're having. On one hand, some people say, well, government doesn't really have any role in helping people. Government's role is to let the market take care of it and to get out of the way. Some people say that. Others of us believe along a different line. I'm from Minnesota, and we, Imam Johari, we had a senator named Hubert Horatio Humphrey. And before the great Paul Wellstone got up and did what he did, and as Eugene McCarthy was calling for us to get out of Vietnam, Hubert H. Humphrey in 1947, before Brown versus Board of Education, he said segregation was wrong and said it at the National Democratic Convention. And he upset Strom Thurmond so bad they walked out of the convention. So this is the kind of place I come from. Let me tell you this. He said the moral test of a nation is how we treat our seniors who are in the twilight of their life, how we treat the young ones in the dawn of life, and how we treat our fellow Americans in the shadow of life who are fighting poverty and discrimination. And by that moral test, I think that's the one we should pick. If we're in a debate over what is the proper role of government, I believe the proper role of government should be caring one for one another. I believe the proper role of government should be to live in harmony with creation. I believe the role of government is to help people and defend them against powerful corporations that would literally crush us under their boot if they could. And I believe certainly the government should protect our right to organize on the job if we so choose. And I believe that the government should assure us that when we pull together, there is enough. There is enough. Because the other side, they say there's not enough. That's why you're on your own. That's why you better get yours. That's why they believe in one another kind of a golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rule. That's the golden rule they got. Now, golden rule we got, we think of the golden rule as a Christian concept, and it is. But it's also, in the Islamic faith, they say Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, that's what we say, is that none of you is a believer unless you want for your brother and sister what you want for yourself. So, in Judaism they say let there be no needy among you. How about that? They have a concept of the Jubilee. Every 50 years, all debts forgiven. They have a concept that, and they say this, the Seder's and the Passover is coming up, and they say, you know, never oppress the stranger because once you were the stranger. Now, if we be perfectly honest, Muslim, Christian, Jew, we could add Hindu, Buddhist, Baha'i, none of us really live up to the creeds that we profess. We're all in need of mercy. We're all in need of mercy. But we should always be found striving for those ideals. We should always be found striving. Now, if we are going to make a more perfect union, the one I described a moment ago is the one I hope you will share with me is more perfect than the you're on your own one. Then we have to understand that our unity and solidarity is extremely precious. Not only should we embrace it, not only should we embrace it, we should hold it up. And we should argue it in an assertive way because it is the only antidote against the wedge. You know, let me say this. Let me borrow from the Christian Bible. You know, one time Jesus, and the Muslims call Jesus Isa, and we believe in Jesus and we believe in the scriptures that he brought, as we do the scriptures that were even before him. And he was teaching to the multitudes one day. You know this story? Yeah. And there was 5,000 people they say he was teaching. And you know, in those days, the Bible writers, they didn't include our sisters in the numbers. So there's probably 10,000. And it got to be around dinner time. And you know, people was getting hungry. You know, he turned to his friends, his homies, his helpers, and said, you guys, what do we got for the people? And you know, they looked at each other and they looked at him and said, man, they got to go home. Because we only got a couple of fish and some barley loaves and they ain't gonna make it. I don't know what they're gonna do. They had their eye on one fish. The other guy said, we could share that one. I don't know what them people are gonna do. They got to go. Anyway, Jesus, according to the Bible writers, started handing out food. He didn't ask them, he just started handing out food. And according to the scripture writers, there was enough. Not only was there enough, what's the truth? What's the story say? There was more than enough. They had to pick it up after it was done. Now, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. But I can tell you that, well, maybe the people recognized there wasn't enough and they went back to the village and brought some back to share. Or maybe their perception of scarcity, they perceived scarcity when really there was radical abundance. Radical abundance. There was enough. There was enough. There was enough, more than enough, and they had to pick up what was left. And brothers and sisters, today there is enough. There's enough for me and you. There's enough food, there's enough water, right? There's enough for the blacks, the whites, the Latinos, the Asians. There's enough for the Muslims, there's enough for the Christians, there's enough for the Jew, enough for the Hindu, there's enough for the Buddhist, there's enough for the Baha'i, there's enough for the non-theists. Let's not forget the non-theists. Really, part of our community. Let's say that there's enough for everyone, but there's not enough if you're gonna hoard. Now let me tell you, right now I got more money in my pocket than Wells Fargo, General Electric, Boeing paid in taxes. There's not enough. There's not enough. There's not enough if those who have are too stingy to give anything. I'm telling you, that I got more money in my pocket than Bank of America paid in taxes. In fact, you and I gave them $600 million. Don't clap for that. I'm telling you that there's not enough if those who already have a lot are still hungry for more. And those who don't have anything are struggling to survive, but still have an abundance of charity and generosity in their heart. I'm telling you that the decisions, the way our society has become misshapen, is a result of policy decisions. And policy decisions that would take literally heat out of the homes of our seniors. We're talking about cutting light heat, home heating oil for sinners. Can you believe this? I'm telling you, General Electric won't pay nothing, but we got to cut light heat. They said, we can't pay nothing. How much can you guys pay? Nothing. Not nothing. Get out of here. This is what they say. Am I making this up? No. They say, you got to cut light heat. But, you students, no Pell Grants this summer, kids. Better go look for a summer job. Oh, sorry, unemployment's 8.9%. And that is when we measure it the most generous way to the government. Really, it's twice that. We can reorder this society. That's right. We can reorder this society, God willing, if we will come together. If we won't let anyone divide us. If we won't let anybody say, hey y'all, I'm just saying, you better be worried about them Muslims over there. Oh, better be worried about them guys over there. They look like they could be not born in America, illegal aliens. As if a person could be an alien, like somebody from outer space. Some of these people actually want to change the Constitution to say that if you're born here, you're not a citizen. Think about that. Let me tell you this. We do need some constitutional amendments. How about one that says that the First Amendment only applies to human beings? What about that? We're going to introduce that. We've been talking to, where's the brother at? He's so much, we've been introduced. Right. Me and Rabbi Lerner scratching out some words for that. We also introduced the Global Marshall Plan. Now the Global Marshall Plan is a very simple idea. It is that over 1 billion people, 2 billion people live on less than $1 a day in this world. 2 billion people in a world where we make so much corn, so much wheat, so much soybeans. We dump it into the ocean. We won't even give it to people who need it. People who don't have water to drink. And I'm gonna tell you something about this 1% that these developed countries give to the other countries. This is not charity. Because if you look at the history of colonialism, all these countries do fat on these countries that they're taking from now. Absolutely true. You take a country like Democratic Republic of Congo. Used to be the privately owned property of King Leopold in Belgium. Now you're gonna tell me that Belgium giving some money to DRC is charity? It's just a little bit of payback. That's right. It will never match what they took away. Look, let us not operate out of a sense of grievance or hate. Let's operate out of love and generosity. Let's draw from our tradition and draw on generosity, mercy, peace, justice. Let's stick together. Let's not let anybody come between us. When the Muslims pray, we stand in a row, shoulder to shoulder. You're in trouble if the imam, like Imam Juhari would say, straighten up your lines. Close the gaps. If we can do that, you don't have to be a Muslim to do that. We can all straighten up our lines and close the gaps, right? As a people. And we can say all colors, all cultures, all faiths, all ways of who you want to love, all ways of seeing the world. We are going to come together as a people, and we are going to demand a reordering of this system. And we can do it if we hang together and if we're active. Now, can I say one last quick thing? Do you have time for one more thing to say? Now, look, let me just say this. Who here stood in a march in 2004, 2003, saying we got to get out of Iraq? Anybody? Everybody? We got out in the street, right? Did we get in the street? We marched, we raised it up, we talked about peace. We got out there strong. And we literally began a movement where we began to talk about, hey, you know, there's no health care. 47 million Americans no health care. Now we have 50 million. We get up there and say, you know what? We're living off all these fossil fuels. We're burning up things that were in the ground, and we're warming up the earth, giving the whole earth like a fever, right? We're doing these things. We began to expand our understanding as we got out there for peace. We began to see what Martin Luther King saw, which is that war is the enemy of the poor.
That's right.
And we got this movement, and we ran hard, and then in 2004, the technologists, you know, they stole Ohio, right? But we also brought, you know, the movement got behind Howard Dean. You could see it, it's there. And this movement gathered more steam and culminated. And let me just tell you, that along the way, a brilliant young orator, he was a state senator from Illinois. He joined that movement. And he offered us his credentials for qualification in that movement, that he was, at one time in his life, a community organizer. And we were in the streets, and the Hispanic community, they started it. They said, what they say? Si se puede. Who was in an immigration reform march? I was. He said, si se puede, right? And then we turned it into English. And we said, yes, we can. Don't forget where it started. Let me tell you, that brilliant young state senator, he didn't come up with yes, we can. That came out of the Hispanic movement for immigration reform. Did you know that? Yes. Well, absolutely it did. Ask. So but he said, yes, we can. He just turned it into English and said, yes, we can. And we were out there yelling, yes, we can, right? Remember that? Yeah. And then he got elected, and then we said, yes, he can. People, he didn't start it, he can't stop it. He didn't start it, he can't stop it. I'm telling you this. Anyone who pushes against a progressive president, you know, can end up with a Republican president. Just saying. Right. The focus should not be one individual. The focus should be justice, mercy, generosity, the principles that we live by. That way, whether one person comes or one person goes, doesn't matter. The movement marches forward. That's right. Right? Now, let me just remind you of what you already know. Richard Nixon, no friend of progressive politics, had to be the author of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Act, and lots of civil rights legislation. Am I right or wrong? It's not because he wanted to, it's because the movement propelled him to it. Now we're in a right-wing swing, sort of. And so even our progressive presidents sort of gotta do stuff they wouldn't do, or do, you know, that their heart's not in. But what makes the difference? You and I, the movement that we push forward. Don't stop pushing. Don't stop organizing. Don't stop demanding justice. Don't let anybody divide us. You will create the social space necessary for somebody in leadership with good intentions to do the right thing, but they need you and I to create the space. I guarantee you this is true. You know it's true in your heart. So, enough talking from me. Sorry for talking so long. Thank you.